Barak the Yahweh, 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 Kol Ayim La, Adonai Yahweh, Bashim Shamalak Yahweh, Bashim Kakadash, double honor to the apostles and those great millstone, peace, citation, hope for elect, Shalom. And the title of this video is going to be prescription drug shortages of 2022. So pretty much just gonna go into a quick video and give like a quick skim through this article about the prescription drug shortages. They claim it has plagued the U.S. for years, but we already know these shortages are getting crazy over time, and pretty much like C19 pretty much caused a lot of things to become, let's just say, not as available as they used to be, because of the lockdowns and shit like that. So we pretty much had like a lesser production of certain things, and the workers getting laid off, things of that nature. So it put a real slowdown on the economy, and a real like slow pretty much like production on certain items and goods that you usually get to for your day-to-day life, and in 2022, brothers been mostly hearing about shortages about certain essentials that you need for basic human needs. So then it's just getting worse. So right now I'm just gonna go into a video.
Prescription drugs can drain your wallet, but Channel 2's consumer advisor Clark Howard says there's a website that can help you save big.
I have an important tip for you about prescription medicines that your doctor may prescribe for you. Now there are more and more medicines that are combinations of other drugs, maybe drugs that are out of patent that cost almost nothing to buy, but when they're put together into one medicine, the cost may go up to 1,000 times what they are separately. So what you should do if you need a particular medicine or combination of medicines is you want to check to see if taking separate pills would save you big money. There's a website called GoodRx that can help you do that. In addition, when you go to a doctor for what ails you, take the discount prescription list from your favorite pharmacy. I call them the $4 list, originally pioneered by Walmart. When the doctor goes to write a prescription, ask him or her, can you write it from this list? This is what I can afford. It'll save you a fortune, because more than a third of all prescriptions are abandoned now because they're too expensive for us to fill. I'm Clark Howard.
So yeah, man, as you can see, pretty much they mentioned about like how prescription drugs are becoming more expensive. And I think he also mentioned about like that they have to like pretty much like mix it or so, which honestly we already know and it's truth that you pretty much shouldn't be taking those prescription drugs in general, because it's like those are witchcraft. That's why you got to stick with the herbs and then the natural medicines, which is like fruits, vegetables, things of that nature, to pretty much keep your body in the healthiest state, and fasting on those things as well. The Most High created herbs of this earth for a reason. The majority of these American people, they don't have no knowledge about the dietary law, and they don't have no knowledge about like herbs such as like fruits and vegetables. They don't know nothing about that. And the sage, and they don't know about like certain healthy like nuts and stuff like that for them to like eat for their health, and how to fast on those herbs. They don't know anything about that. So it says the U.S. has been suffering a prescription drug shortage for years. It's a crisis that predates the pandemic. Now experts are weighing in on what is going on. And pretty much they mentioned like in an interview, Rebecca's Hospital Review on Wednesday, Northeastern University Mechanical Industrial Engineering Professor Jacqueline Griffin pointed out issues in the healthcare industry supply chain. And quote, COVID-19 is causing big challenges, but the thing we really need to be clear about is that there are systematic problems underlying the supply chain. Dr. Griffin said we need to be careful not blame it on the most recent disruption, because we're seeing is more and more disruptions. The problem keep on getting worse and worse. We need to step up and make a change, not just looking for quick solutions or temporary solutions. In 2011, the country experienced a rapid rise, ultimately creating significant friction within the healthcare industry. A study published in Journal of Pharmacy and Therapeutics from the same year discussed the causes and consequences of psychiatric crisis. And quote, drug shortages are caused by many factors, including difficulties in acquiring raw material, manufacturing problems, regulatory issues, and business decisions, as well as many other disturbances within the supply chain, the study said. And quote, drug shortages have a profound impact on patient safety, clinical outcomes, quality control, healthcare facility management, and other important factors. The study later concluded, although it is impossible to predict or prepare for every drug shortage, careful planning can prevent the consequent problems from turning into a crisis. While the U.S. health industry has made progress since then, the FDA said the shortages are still a concern in the 2016 report. And quote, while FDA industry has made progress, patients are still experiencing drug shortages that impact their career. The FDA said in a report, and quote, a high percentage of drug shortages have been and continue to be sterile injectables, including chemotherapy, anesthesia, and other acute drugs. 6 years later, the pandemic has only exacerbated the problem, end quote. Although the number of new drug shortages has declined since 2011 as a result of work by many groups, including FDA, shortages to continue to pose a real challenge to public health. FDA said in its 2021 report, this is especially the case when the shortage involves a critical drug to treat cancer, to provide parental, parenteral nutrition, or to address another serious medical condition such as a shortage of blood pressure medications. Although there has been a leveling off in new shortages over the past few years, CY 2021 has been a challenging year for shortages. Dr. Griffin said one of this year's major culprit in the drug shortage crisis is major miscalculation. And quote, when you get a list of drugs that are currently out of shortage, sometimes there will be a date that says this is when we expect it to come back and to stop. Oftentimes, what we found looking through it is the information is not very reliable, Dr. Griffin told Beckers. Mistakes concerning product production and product expense are adding significant burdens on the healthcare industry. Another major problem in 2022 is secrecy. And quote, typically the information about the supply chains of where the raw materials are originally coming from, how things flow, and sometimes what manufacturing capacity even exists is typically held as a competitive secret or a competitive advantage, and therefore it's not really shared. Dr. Griffin said, we don't have a real vision for what our resiliency or lack of resiliency looks like. And the last quick video, which is about a minute and 5 seconds, and a little quick skim of the article, I'm just gonna show you, like, pretty much like what this what they're gonna pretty much say on the news about the estimate of the short supply of medications, which is like more than 100, they said, and how pharmacies are being impacted.
And supply chain problems are causing a shortage for prescription drugs. News Center 7's John Drexilius joins us live. And Don you spoke with the director of a local pharmacy to see just how bad this issue is.
That's right, Gab. It's been over 2 years since the beginning of the pandemic, and now supply chain issues are causing more and more shortages. This latest shortage impacts people who rely on medications. Right now, they're facing challenges when it comes to being able to continue their prescriptions or even moving to generic medications due to supply chain issues as far as China and Europe.
The FDA actually has a site where you can go and it lists all the different drugs. It's actually close to 140. So it's a substantial list of medications that are experiencing some shortages right now. Some of these medications, if they're a brand name only, there's no generic option. We have to look at a totally different drug.
The FDA says that there are over 100 drugs on the drug shortage list, which isn't even the worst part. Some medications have a generic form that people can use. However, some medications can't even be made due to supply chain issues. Reporting in studio, I'm Dr. Dexilius, News Center 7.
All right. And it says, Miami Valley shortages have ranged from things like food to workers, and prescription and over-the-counter drugs are being added to the list. This is on June 30, 2022. It says, while this is not the first time the country has experienced a drug shortage, it's one of the worst, experts said. More than 100 medications are on Food and Drug Administration's drug shortage list. And it says it's not just the prescription medications, it's also over-the-counter medications. We have never been shorted as much as we are right now, Justin Kobe, director of pharmacy at Cedar Care Village and Pharmacy, said, and quote, because of over-the-counter issues that we're having with medications that we order, you can be waiting for medication for 90 to 120 days based on what the issues are. While some drugs have a generic that's comparable, if isn't the case for others, this can create issues for those who rely on specific medications to survive. The FDA states that these shortages are due to supply chain issues, with 80% of active pharmaceutical ingredients being made overseas in China, India, and Europe. If your medication is in short supply, experts suggest contacting your physician or pharmacist for possible alternatives. So this is the prescription drug statistics worldwide. It says more than 26% of UK adults take prescription medications. Public Health England 2022. That's the source. And about 35% of Australians take prescription medicine every day, according to the Health Direct in 2018. And in Canada, about 65% of people aged 40 to 79 take one or more prescription drugs. By the CDC in 2019, and 35 million people around the world have drug use disorders. And yeah, that was sourced by United Nations 2019. And they even said pain medications are the most commonly abused prescription drugs, according to Mississippi State Department of Health 2021. And only 1 in 7 people receive treatment from drug use disorders around the world, United Nations 2019. And the global number of opioid users is estimated to be 53 million, according to United Nations 2019. So yeah, man. They said the prescription drug statistics in the United States, there are more than 20,000 prescription drugs that are approved for marketing, according to FDA 2020, and about 66% of U.S. adults take prescription drugs, according to Health Policy Institute 2021. And about 46% of U.S. adults have taken a prescription drug in the past 30 days, according to CDC 2019. And the therapeutic areas with the highest spending in the U.S. are anti-diabetics, oncologics, autoimmune, and respiratory diseases, according to Statista 2021. And we all know through the spirit that these fucking prescription drugs, they ain't gonna pretty much cure no damn sickness, man. And it says the leading drug classes in the U.S. are anti-hypertensives, pain relievers, and mental health drugs, according to Statista 2021. And the most commonly abused types of prescription drugs in the U.S. are opioids, tranquilizers, benzodiazepines, and prescription stimulants, according to Journal of Substance Abuse Treatment 2014. And the U.S. consumed about 30% of the world's supply of opioids in 2015, according to PolitiFact 2017. Almost 50,000 people died from opioid overdoses in 2019, according to National Institute on Drug Abuse 2019. So yeah, some people, like, when they do, it's like when they get stressed and they can't cope with shit that's going on in their life, that's another thing they do. They overdose on those prescription drugs as well, and they end up dying from that as a result. So I'm not gonna really read it, but there's this is a prescription drug statistics by age group and the teen prescription drug misuse statistics. And by if race and ethnicity, this shows you that mostly non-white Hispanics, 50% is like they use more prescription drug use, and then followed by non-Hispanic black people, and then showing, which is 45%, and then Hispanic is 37%, and then non-Hispanic Asians 33%. And yeah, so pretty much they're just showing like the rest of the information that y'all could just pause the video and read for yourselves if y'all want. Yeah. So with that, I'm just gonna bring out scriptures, and Lord willing, y'all be edified. You hope for elect. So on 2 Ezra chapter 6 verse 22 says, "And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty." Yeah, and that pretty much like goes into all the items that people buy, whatever good they buy for their day-to-day lives, basic necessities as well, or even prescription drugs for this matter. And one thing about a lot of people is that when it's coming to let's just say their daily life, these people don't know what it's like to pretty much like fast on food. So when they take those prescription drugs, they always have to find themselves like eating as well, to kind of cope, I guess, with some sort of depression. Because some people that take those prescription drugs a lot of the time is for mental health related reasons. Not only it's for like diabetic or high blood pressure, or high, let's just say, blood sugar levels or so. And they have like I think it will call it like the insulin that will pretty much like prevent like certain sugars in their blood or something like that. Like it's not really as effective, so they may need to take like some prescription drugs to kind of like to help cope with the fact that they live in such an unhealthy life. And pretty much when it's coming to the average American out there, they really don't understand about the dietary law. They don't understand how fasting works and things of that nature. And pretty much once you hooked on those prescription drugs, there's certain things that you end up becoming let's just say, like, because I've seen like some videos mentioning that you can't take certain things, like let's say apple cider vinegar or whatever, that it will mess you up if you're under certain prescription drugs. So sometimes they say you got to go see a doctor to see if you could use certain herbs or certain things like that, like if you could use like certain healthy things. Pretty much showing you that how those prescription drugs, they make your body become like, let's just say, it becomes like harm to like certain natural medicines that you use. And that's pretty much the damage that it does. And these people are going to have like a sort of, let's just say, like a withdrawal stage when they can't find the prescription drugs that they desperately need. You can only imagine during Jacob's trouble, like if these people act crazy now because they're not on their pills, or they're not on their medication or whatever. You can only really imagine like during the time of Jacob's trouble, like what these people are really finna do, and how these people finna lash out on each other. These people, we already know, they already have a whole bunch of demons on them, and what's gonna stir up their demons and turn them up even more is that they have those prescription drugs. So you're finna see a turn up on them left hand side spirits eventually, as the brothers in the truth been saying. So, and all the crimes that you've been seeing that I've been reporting, on my channel, like showing like about videos of different crimes happening even on broad daylight. And this is why society is, and function while they have like police, why you still could get arrested. You feel me? Like, I feel like a lot of the times, like, those people are probably under prescription drugs for the most part. And when it comes to a time where in Jacob's trouble they can't easily access prescription drugs that they used to, shit, you finna see a real turn up on them demons, man. You know? Because we already know that these people, since they don't fast, since they don't live a healthy lifestyle, and since they pretty much like they're not gonna know what to do and how to maneuver in a time of Jacob's trouble, you know, especially when hyperinflation hits and they end up have to buy less things or whatever than they used to. So that's pretty much what's gonna boil down to. And then the article mentioned all around the certain countries that, you know, what will lead, like what's pretty much leading to like the supply chain issues is that usually America's an importing country, so they get like their raw materials from different countries, like it's say in Asia, which is primarily like you know, the Asian country that produces a lot of products that shipped over here is, you know, China. They also get it from like different countries in the EU or so, or maybe even in the Middle East at times, and or in Africa. Yeah. And what it says right here is 2nd Ezra chapter 16 verse 1, woe be unto thee, Babylon and Asia, woe be unto thee, Egypt and Syria. So, you know, woe was obviously a word for death and destruction. And pretty much like when it's coming to the miseries of the Most High's calls upon all around the world, yeah, it's pretty much that supply chain issues that's happening, the disruptions of supply chain shortages, less imports on certain goods. That's part of the you know, the issue that's causing the supply chain shortages, you know, on the items that people need for their let's just say for their sanity, or like, you know, pretty much like for their basic needs of survival. Because when it's coming to those prescription drugs, it's like it's pretty much like those drugs that people be using on the street in a way. It's no different. It's like it's like crack to a crackhead, you know, or like pretty much like weed to a pothead. And in some senses, it's like when it's coming to certain people, they're gonna pretty much like feel like how a crackhead feels when a crackhead doesn't have crack in their system, and they're gonna go crazy. So don't be surprised like when you see that some people, because they didn't have their schizophrenia medication because there's a shortage on that, or they didn't have like some medication for their, let's say, any psycho related, anything that's related to the mental, to the mind, like any like medication that's related to like, you know, treating their mental disease or mental disorder. Yeah, they finna turn up and go crazy. These people might hear voices, they might see shit like influencing them to basically do shit that they didn't necessarily want to do, and they may just have it in their spirit where they're gonna get influenced by those evil spirits, and it's gonna possess them to do some shit that they didn't really do when they were under the prescription drugs. So they're gonna be doing some insane twisted shit just because they didn't have like those prescription drugs in their system. And we all know that people that are pretty much on those under those prescription drugs, like they end up like sometimes they take one and they end up getting a lot of adverse effects, and they start taking more, you know, getting pretty much like hooked up with more prescription drugs, and they end up like eventually messing up their minds, so they end up seeing certain shit or hearing certain shit too as well, you know, at times. And it says gird up yourselves with cloths of sack and hair, bewail your children and be sorry, for your destruction is at hand. Yep. And a sword is set upon you, and who may turn it back? If fire is set among you, and who may quench it? Plagues are sent unto you, and what is he that may drive them away? So yeah, this shit ain't going away, man. You know, what the Most High is doing, he's causing like great miseries upon the world, you know. And like in verse 18, this is pretty much like the beginning of sorrows, and it's also beginning of famine. Yep. And pretty much like in verse 19 it says like this is like, you know, the scourges of amendment. So, but I didn't want to make the lesson too long, but with that, I just hope I made that lesson edifying. Like to give all glory, praise, and honor to Adonai Yahweh, Bashim Shamalaki Yahweh, Bashim Kakadash, double honor to Apostle Els Great Millstone, peace, citation, hope for elect, Yahweh Shem Yahshua, Bakashash, Shalak Rayam, Adawamium, Wa Goyam, Wa Abab Bosh, Shalom.